Hey, Dr. Price, get started. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining for another one of these Teams talks. Today, I wanted to talk about the RefWorks Citation Manager, which can be used for your papers or your projects that you're working on to manage your citations and create your bibliographies and all of that. And this is a product that's purchased by Liberty for you to have access to through ProQuest. And there is there's a standalone like site that you can use for this, but there's also a plugin available for Microsoft Word, so you can actually use the RefWorks Citation Manager within your Word document. So I usually try to show where you can find what we're talking about first off. And since this is a JFL purchase product, if you go to the LUCOM library page under Jerry Falwell Library Resources, you'll find a link to RefWorks that you can use. It'll take you to something that's kind of new that I'm glad I'm doing this again, is the university is actually moving to, you guys have probably heard me talk about Easy Proxy before. We're moving to something called Open Athens, which is another authentication off-campus authentication tool. So I'm already signed into this, but in the past you used to create a login for it. And now when you go to it, if you don't have a login, I may have to play with this some and make sure, or if people have problems, you may have to use this Open Athens credentials to access it in the future, because we're moving. We're supposed to be running Easy Proxy and Open Athens side by side for the rest of this academic year, so at least till May or June. But some of the resources I've noticed have only started working with Open Athens, which is our new product. But if that's the case, you can click on this, you choose Open Athens credentials. If I can get to it, that's not gonna. But you look up Liberty University and sign in that way, and with your Liberty sign username and password. Also, something, just kind of a tip, if you forget this part about where to find the RefWorks link and you just go to refworks.com, it's going to pull up this website, which is actually the old version, what they call the legacy version of RefWorks. And you just want to make sure that you don't try to sign in here, because it won't work. So you'll actually have to, up here it says looking for the most up-to-date version of RefWorks, click here and it'll take you to the actual site. I'm already signed in here. You can see my name up here and I've got some citations, but I'm going to show you how to do these. So once you have a login established and you have your dashboard here for adding your citations, there's a couple different places you might find citations. I know I've helped some faculty with this before, but for example, we use PubMed a lot. So if you happen to be in PubMed and you're looking up articles, you can select the articles with these little check boxes, and you can send to Citation Manager, and it'll tell you how many you have selected and you want to create a file. And if you look at my downloads here, it creates this, it calls it a .nbib file, and that's just an aggregated file of all the citations for these 3 articles that I have. So when I'm back in my RefWorks dashboard, I can click on this little add symbol and import references, and you'll see you can import from RefWorks Mendeley or RIS file, but it also includes this mbib file. So you'll click on that, it'll say drop file here, you can drag it and drop it, or you select from the computer. And here is the mbib file, and the file will be imported. And it grabs those and it'll bring all the metadata and all the associated with those citations. And now I have those citations in my project to use. So this is how you will use the RefWorks platform itself, like on a browser. You can actually, you'll see there's a link here for sharing your citations if you're working with someone else. You can also create a bibliography based on which citations you select directly from this web page, but there's ways to do this in Microsoft Word, which kind of do it for you as you're writing, which is pretty cool. I also wanted to mention other resources that you might use to get citations. And this is actually kind of surprising to me. I did some digging and I'm not the only person that was surprised by this, but you might use Clinical Key has a lot of journal holdings, and you can find a lot of citations in Clinical Key. They actually index Medline content, so there's going to be a lot of full-text journal articles. The weird thing about Clinical Key, maybe it's a product issue with the way they do things, there's no way to export those citations from Clinical Key. It's just not built into the product. So there's a workaround. The company that makes Clinical Key is called Elsevier, and they also make a product that you're probably familiar with called Scopus. That's what we use for like finding impact factor of journals and articles, some number of papers published by different authors. So if you're using Clinical Key to find your citations of your articles, just know that you're not going to be able to export those citations from Clinical Key. But what you can do is you can take like the DOIs from the articles you find in Clinical Key, and you can go and search those in Scopus. And Scopus actually allows you to export the citations so you can import them into RefWorks like we just did. And of course, you might be using Medline Ultimate, which indexes full text content from PubMed. And the way this works is it's very similar to PubMed. So if I'm finding articles, these little folder icons with the plus symbol, I can add those to my folder. And then I can go to my folder view and I can select my citations and export, and I can choose what I want to. So it says here, this might be confusing because there's different ways you can export this. Most of these won't mean anything to you, but they have a direct export to RefWorks. But you can also, I've always just used this RIS format because RefWorks recognizes RIS. So if I save, export that RIS file, it calls it delivery RIS, RIS, not IRS. And if I go back to RefWorks, then I can click on Add, Import, select the file from my computer, and delivery. It's making it as a Zotero file, but it's a RIS file, and I can import that. And again, it's including the tags and the metadata from the database. And now I have those citations in my project. Okay, so that's using some databases to get citations of papers and how to download those and import them into your project. If you want to use RefWorks in your Word document of your paper that you're working on, you'll have to install the plugin. There's a RefWorks Citation Manager plugin. And this took me a while. Part of the reason I didn't like RefWorks for a while was because I always had trouble with it, because I didn't realize with the new version of RefWorks, you have to be using the Office 365 version of Microsoft Word. I was not aware that apparently for a while I still had the Office 2016 versions of the Office applications on my computer, and the RefWorks Citation Manager won't work with that. So you have if you're going to use the RefWorks Citation Manager plugin, make sure you're actually using the Office 365 version of those applications. And if you go to Office 365, like the website, and sign in with your Liberty credentials, you'll find a link there to install the 365 versions on your computer, just in case you're not sure. But once you have the Office 365 version, you open up Word, you'll click on this Insert menu, and you'll go here to Get Add-ins, and it opens up the Office add-in store. Well, okay, not available. It should be available on your computer, and you can search for RefWorks, and they've got a plugin. I've already got it installed, so you'll see once you install it, you'll have a ribbon up here for RCM. This is your RefWorks Citation Manager. And when you click on that, it gives you your little RW icon here. And when I click on that, it opens up in a sidebar all of my citations from my RefWorks. These are all coming from this page. So it syncs with your access to RefWorks on the web where you're managing your citations, and it puts them in Word so I can use them in my paper. And what's cool about this is Dr. Mental, I know, has had some experience with this because there's a bunch of different citation styles available depending on what journal you're publishing to or what type of paper you're writing. So I have AMA just because it's American Medical Association, we're a medical school, but you can actually search through all kinds of different styles here, whether you're using APA, or I don't think any of us would be using Chicago or Turabian, but I know Dr. Mental had one that was what was it? Dr. Mental was Vancouver. It was like something specific for a Springer
It was
journal or something.
it was me. It was Chicago. They wanted Chicago. So
That's
some
what
of
it
the
was.
journals are
Yeah.
very specific about which style they want you to use.
Yeah.
Some even want MLA still.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
so those styles are available here. And as I'm writing my paper, you guys can see this. As I'm writing my paper, I can cite my citation, and it uses whatever style I'm using to add my notation there. And something else that's cool that I mentioned, you can create that bibliography. So if I'm adding, let's say I'm adding, and I want to cite this, I'm adding my citations. If you click on this little ellipses, you'll find this toggle for bibliography off. And I just toggle that on. And now it's as I'm writing, oops, I don't want that in my citation. As I'm writing my manuscript and I'm adding, dang it, it's not gonna let me get out of it. As I'm writing my manuscript and adding my citations, it's creating your bibliography from the citations you're using while you're writing it. So by the time you finish writing your manuscript, you already have a bibliography, and it's got all the metadata. It's got the author, journal title. This is all AMA formatting, but author, journal title, journal article title, year, volume, issue. It even has DOI, which is really important. So you don't have to worry about having to keep up with what citations you've used to create that bibliography. It does it for you. So I know that's kind of short and sweet, but that's kind of what I wanted to show. And just something I didn't mention last time when I did this was that just remember that if you're using databases to get citations, remember that clinical key doesn't offer the option to export your citations. You can still use the articles you find there. You're just going to have to cross-reference them and find them in Scopus, because Scopus actually gives you, it's another Elsevier product, but that gives you the option to export that RIS file to import to your project.
So Rob, if we're writing an article like I'm doing right now, and I have a list of 15 citations for the intro here, and I have them on a Word document, what's sort of the best way then to make sure that they're in the accurate, form? Is it taking that list? Can you take the word list?
I think this tool is pretty good to making it close to what it's supposed to be. But if you just, I would never say you could go wrong by putting your eyes on it and checking out. Like when I was in college, I used to use something called Purdue OWL.
Yes, I know about that. We use
so
that.
There are examples in Purdue OWL for what your bibliography should look like per your style. So maybe you could look at that example and compare it to what RefWorks has created for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I know that's kind of brief, but if anybody needs any help with this or it's not working on your computer, please let me know. I'll come by your office and we'll get it working. And I'll try to do another one of these maybe soon on Zotero, because I've done it before, and you'll see I actually have Zotero in Word here. It's another really useful citation manager. Does the same thing. It's just a free and open source version of it.
Insert, how do you, from insert, is that insert reference? So insert what? I didn't get it.
So as I'm writing, you'll choose whichever citation you're using for that part of your paper, and you'll literally just click cite this and it'll add it.
Oh,
you don't have to insert it. You just click on cite this and it adds the citation.
Oh, so you didn't have to click on insert. So that number you inserted the number. How do you get the number? Because you collected it's automatically.
It automatically. So it added my notation, my citation here for my second reference. And as I did that, because I turned on the bibliography toggle, it added my second reference here with all the information for it.
Okay.
And does
Depending on the style
it?
you use, it might look different. I mean, different styles, obviously use different formatting. Some of them will put like an author's last name and a page number or something, depending on what you use. But it'll create that bibliography for you as you're writing it.
And does it IBID like for a document? Will it
I
do
believe
that?
so. I believe so.
Okay.
So thank you guys for your time. This recording will be up. I'm going to put it up on the research guide if you want to watch it later. And as always, all of the recordings we've done for these are available on the research guide under brief how-to videos. And thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.